What's up, folks? And we're back. We're back to talk about prep for Worlds, which is getting real close, real fast. I've got my badge in my game box. It arrived a couple days ago, so it's like happening soon. And I don't know if I've mentioned this recently in the prep, but I've never been to Adepticon at all, let alone Worlds. So this is going to be really fun. I think it's actually my first full-on con ever, so I'm particularly excited about this one. So good times. Maybe I'll see some of you there. But I wanted to jump in real quick and give just some quick feedback on the actual list that I will be running. Spoilers. And then also talk a little bit about my experience actually flying Wedge. So I flew both Wedge and the Battle of Yavin Hull Oakend, who both have their advanced proton torpedoes. This is the first time since 1.0. It's been like 10 years since I actually put advanced proton torpedoes on the table, and I flew both ships like an idiot. Everything I did, every single turn, was try to line up those advanced proton torpedoes. So I flew horribly. I flew incredibly badly, and yet still the games were really, really close. The list was really powerful. Wedge never died. Having that extra shield was huge. That it's a trap was really helpful here and there. I also ran him with a ship I'll talk about in a second. But the big things that I need to be aware of is he's initiative 6 with a boost, with a focus boost or a barrel roll focus, which just makes him a really strong piece regardless, even if you don't line up the APT, APT. He's also got Predator, he's got the defensive buff, and then that absolute gold and that R2A3 to give you that double modded shot once per round, or once per game, excuse me. Super strong piece. The initiative 6 is huge. He's got a really good maneuverable action bar. So he's a ship that is going to be incredibly powerful and one that I'm really looking forward to flying better. And just the APT, if I get the chance to land it, great, especially against a ship that's already moved. In both of my practice games, I played against a double I6 list, so it's no surprise that I wasn't able to land it well, but it was still a very instructive lesson of how not to fly the thing. Yeah, so I don't think I think I fired the advanced proton torpedo once in 2 games, which isn't bad, but considering how much effort I put into lining it up, probably not worth it. So I really enjoyed the Wedge. I wanted to be sure to highlight that. Don't do this. APT is nice, but don't fly just for that. Fly it like an I6 X-Wing with an extra shield. Which is to say, fly it carefully, but expect not to lose it, whereas normally you would fly an X-Wing carefully and expect to lose it. So there we go on that one. Just to run through the list, this is the list I'm actually going to bring to Worlds, the one I'm going to bring to the Last Chance Qualifier, the one I'm going to actually try to make it into the final, into Worlds with. I'm very sad to say that I will be bringing Rebels. I honestly do think that Scum and Villainy is really, really strong. I'm a total fanboy. I do think that for a truly skilled player, there is nothing. I do believe that a Scum and Villainy pilot could win Worlds without even trying that hard, actually. Some of the recent nerfs have been really helpful for Scum indirectly, in that they've kind of impacted things. They have negatively impacted the things that were really holding Scum back in terms of competitive lists. Scum, it's still an uphill battle in some ways, but Scum has some very, very strong pieces, and the more I play with Rebels, the more true I think that is. So I just wanted to make sure to highlight that before I go ahead and say that I am running Rebels. So just to recap it, this is my list. This is Dream Team 2.2. We started with version 1.0, and it's gone through several evolutions. Notice that there is no longer a Han. So it's starting with that Wedge Antilles from Battle over Endor. Then I've got Tycho, the custom A-Wing, who's been my single favorite piece all the way through prep. I had him in one of my first experimental lists just to try him out, and I absolutely love that ship. I love A-Wings, it turns out. A-Wings are my jam. It is the ship I love to fly the most. And Tycho is by far my favorite, being able to still do actions after doing red maneuvers. And he can daredevil and still do an additional action, which is, well, let's talk about that real quick. So A-Wings have the chassis ability where after they perform an action, they can perform a red boost action. So Tycho cannot link a daredevil boost. So why do I have daredevil on here? Even Tycho can't link these. So the reason I have it on here is that he has less of a downside for doing it because he can still do a white maneuver, be stressed, and do double actions the following turn, even if he uses daredevil. That's big. And then also he's initiative 5. So you can know in advance if you should use Daredevil to kind of get him back in position somewhere. And that was clutch in a couple of my games, especially with that heavy laser cannon. So I really liked having that, and I haven't really felt any of the other talent combinations have been terribly effective. So I'm keeping that. Having Elusive on there is a really nice perk. I did lose him in one of my games, which is a bit of a shock, but that is something I need to prepare for too. Yeah, extremely strong piece. I love flying I-Wings, and an initiative 5 that can still do actions while stressed is Most of my practice games with him have been on crates, which he does not like. So I got to remember that one. And then also see another surprise piece. I went ahead and so I built two versions of this list, right? So 2.1 used a gauntlet instead of Magva in the U wing, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, and so I had Sabine in the A wing, or excuse me, Sabine in the tie. When I was changing that up, when I swapped from the gauntlet to the U wing, I gained the extra point for the squad and was able to change that 2 pointer to a 4 pointer, or excuse me, the 2 point to a 3 point. Or I could have changed a 3 point to a 4 if I wanted to bring another 4 cost ship, or I could have changed Tycho down to a 3 as well, and then gone with a 5. So I had another version of this that also included both Wedge and Luke, which I think is still a really powerful piece. Not going with that personally. But yeah, so I was reaching for this, and I took out Sabine tie and was like, you know what, let's take a look at Sabine A-Wing. And Sabine A-Wing is completely bananas. She's an A-Wing with Fearless and Concordia face-off, which makes her phenomenally tanky. Just being an A-Wing and being an objective grabber that can take the amount of damage that she can is incredibly valuable. These past couple practice games, I really felt that I got the absolute value I should have been getting out of Sabine TIE Fighter, so I really enjoyed that. But then I tried Sabine A-Wing and absolutely love it. My go-to favorite pair to bring is Tycho and then Wedge A-Wing. So that's what I wanted to talk about while I was reaching for the 3-point A-Wing that's a little bit more violent. But since I'm bringing Wedge X-Wing, I can't bring Wedge A-Wing. As for why I'm not flying Kyo, this is a list that needs to do a little bit more damage, needs a little bit more punch, and really focuses on being durable. I love Kyo. She's really, really powerful. She, don't know. Kyo is really, really powerful. Great piece that you're going to see a lot, but people will be teching against Kyo, and then also I wanted to be a little bit different, just because I'm a special snowflake. But also I think that Sabine is a really powerful piece that no one's trying. She's kind of been slept on here. And actually, I don't have her build in there. If I'm not mistaken, it is all the Mando upgrades. Yes. Yeah, and this is crazy. So to be able to, I don't know why that's red. To be able to take Beskar Optics clan training on an A-Wing is incredible. And I could look at the other 3-point things instead of optics, but that's really the best thing. It is a bummer that she doesn't have any munition slots, but with her ability to automatically get hits because of that fearless thing, she would be a menace with cluster missiles. So I kind of get it. But yeah, super, super strong. And she has that linked action in that clan training, which is really powerful on a ship like this, especially when you want to be tanky and be focusing on getting objectives. You can objective, and then you can get that focus later. It's not as good because she's I3, but yeah, it's still good. Yeah, I3. So still, I found her really durable and a great piece in my test game. So I'm going to go ahead and try it, and we'll see how it goes. And then I've got Hull in the Battle of Yavin standardized loadout. And of course, that is just like Wedge. I flew him like an idiot trying to get the APT the whole time. But his precise astromech, his ability to just recharge charges on the APT, but really Hope, the dorsal turret, and the precise astromech were really the things that made me go with Hull. He's 3 points. He's a phenomenal piece. Was surprisingly effective in every game. Very tanky, very mobile. I didn't get his APTs off at all, but they were there, and they did. I talked to my opponent after my test games, and the threat of Hull's APTs and his ability to get free target locks from the precise astromech. Yeah, because he can recharge that in game, and also he has 2 turns where he can just get a free target lock, which automatically triggers his APTs and makes him a really scary threat. And it did impact how my opponent flew. So that's the thing about Hull is he's a space controller as much as he is an actual damage dealer. It's just that he can convince people not to go specific lanes or specific ways. So that's a little bit more of a corralling that also I can use in tandem with Wedge to really kind of control the board a bit more, even if I'm not actually landing those hits. And then last but not least, I've got Magva Yarrow in the U-Wing. And I talked about this recently when I talked about the lists I'm bringing. Magva's pilot ability is completely insane. While a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 defends, the attacker cannot reroll more than 1 attack die. You've got so many ships out there throwing APTs, proton torpedoes, heavily modded shots where they're planning to reroll multiple shots. Like you go up against a Han, he's trying to reroll everything. Being able to reroll 1 attack die instead gives them Predator, where instead of a target lock, they have Predator. Or they have, instead of all the mods they could have, they have Predator. So it's still good, and they can still roll into natties, which is unfortunate. But if I'm going up against TIE Defenders, we'll talk about that in a second, throwing 5 attack dice, then I want something that's a little bit more, it's on all the time on all of my ships and can really kind of give them that defensive edge in case I run up against something that's really, really throwing a lot of fire. So that's a big thing there. And the combination of Magfa with Sabine was hilarious. Yeah, Sabine is nigh unkillable in that bubble with Magva, and it was pretty amazing to do that one too. So, and on Magva, I've got just 2 crew upgrades. I've got Fen Rao, who I am bringing to really supercharge Wedge, so that before a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 engages, if its revealed maneuver is 1 speed or higher, and there's an enemy ship in its front arc at range 1, that friendly ship may remove 1 non-lock red token, and that opens up Wedge the ability to focus boost and then remove the deplete before he actually fires the APT. So that's really the big reason to take that, but then it also really helps Tycho clear some of those red tokens because he can help clear stress. It really helps Sabine in some key moments to remove some of those unfortunate stress tokens and really opens up Hull's dial. So yes, I'm taking the tech for Wedge, but it helps every single ship in this squad and is magnificent. It even helps out Magva herself too, so that's really cool. And the testing has been phenomenal, and I'm really grateful to this Wedge for encouraging me to try Fenrau Crew because I really hadn't done it before, and it's now kind of a key piece of tech that I'm putting in all my lists, including my scum list, for just to say it. And then the other piece too, I went ahead and did Leia Organa, just because every 3 turns, my entire list can then treat K turns as white maneuvers or sloops, so they can. It is a bummer that I have to declare at the start of the activation phase, but that is after dials are chosen, and it's again a constant threat to be like, you know what, I'm going to stay still for 1 more turn, or I'm going to have this ship do a K turn. Whoops. Um, yeah, and it's really, really cool tech. I had the points to do something else, but that made the most sense. And every time I try to take it off, I don't find any other combination of upgrades that I like more. So that's what we're sticking with. We'll try it. And in each game, there was definitely, in one game, I think I actually managed to use it 3 times. There was always a case where it was really valuable in the same way that Contraband Cybernetics would be, except I've got it on all of my ships and it's somewhat reusable, which is bananas. So yeah, that's the list I'm bringing to Worlds. Wish me luck. And I was going to cover one more thing here. Still here. If you're still here after my closing notes, good on you. One other thing I wanted to go ahead and talk about is the thing that I really had trouble with. No, we'll cover that in the next video. No, we're done. We're done. Peace.